This is the No Love Songs interviews number 3 with NIhiloceros. We got Mike from NIhiloceros here. So you guys just got back from a tour. You got some cool soaps. There's so much I could talk about. It seems like you've kind of mastered the art of the network.
I definitely tried.
How'd you build what you've built in terms of your network?
I think the big thing for me has always been like, you should care about what other people are doing as much as you care about what you're up to. So like, I've always sort of like lived by the philosophy that why would anyone give a shit about, you know, what I'm doing musically if I don't give a shit about what other people are doing musically. So I just try to put myself, you know, in those, like I try to be that where things are happening. I try to make it to people's shows. I like taking pictures. Like I in a band, like when people take pictures of our band that we can use for social media and things. So if I'm at a show, I take pictures because, you know, that's something that I would want done if the things were reversed my way. So I try to always just sort of be that person that I would want at my show or part of my community. We're all out there trying to like play music and get people to hear it. So share people's music and their Spotify links, share photos. Like it just takes a second to like connect people. And the more of a social media like network you build, the more people are seeing those things and the more eyes get on the things that other people are doing. So like utilize that and build that in a way that it not only benefits you, but benefits those around you and that you're interconnected with. It's not just a music philosophy for me. Like the golden rule is sort of just like sort of a North Star as to how I sort of pattern my life. So I've always just sort of tried to do for other people what I would want done my way. And that just like, you know, translates this way when it comes to music. Cause you know, I try not to expect anyone to pay it forward my way if I'm not paying it forward. It's like, you know, karmic universe stuff.
Here's a question. Playing in a band is expensive. There's rehearsal costs. There's the recordings. There's the, you know, the venues that are pay to play. There's, you know, if you get a gig out of town, there's all these travel costs. And I'm seeing bands that go on tour. I think they're just like spending a ton of money to do that. You've obviously got a big fan base. You've got cool merch and you're selling out shows. Is NIhiloceros profitable? Like, do you guys have are you guys at least in the black?
We're not in the red. It's hard to tell because I could probably do a better job of keeping track. We definitely can't quit our jobs. I think having a job allows us to be able to do, it's a lot of balancing, but I'm lucky to have a job that I work full time that pays for my life, because oftentimes things in the band cost money, like making an album or doing a run of vinyl costs thousands of dollars. Recording in the studio can cost thousands of dollars. And you do make some of that money back. And when you go on tour, you make some of that money back, although you're spending money on gas and food and that kind of stuff too. So it's really sort of a constant cycle of money in, money out. And I've always found that having a job that pretty much covers my expenses if I weren't in a band, then makes it easier to sort of cushion when we need to dip into our bank accounts to pay for stuff. So we do a good job of keeping track to make sure that no one of us is paying for too much of one thing. So we sort of keep between the three of us, we keep our finances pretty organized. But as far as how much money comes into the band versus how much money goes out of the band, you know, we're either barely profitable or barely not. I always find that, you know, any successful tour, and for the most part, any successful band on like a DIY level, as long as you're not losing money, you're a success.
So you've been at this for a while. Have you ever had the experience of having a label that supports you financially?
I think when I first started doing this, when I was like a teenager, I wanted to be signed and I wanted to do all of this. But then as I sort of grew in the Chicago punk scene, like DIY ethos was always like a really big part of what we were doing. I could very quickly, I think, realize a lot of the financials and the networking and the, you know, the booking and all of the band business that people don't like to actually do. I was good at doing myself. And I was like, well, we don't have any money. We're not making any money. So why pay someone for something that you can do yourself? It's more work, but then you're not paying someone for a skill set that we have within the band. So for the longest time, I think shunning the idea of sharing any sort of creative control or financial control with a larger entity was something that I didn't want to do for the longest time. So we didn't, and in a number of bands I've been in, we never really sought out a label to do any of that for a number of reasons. But it wasn't actually until the first label I've ever been affiliated with where we actually, you know, are now on a label was for this last album. I think with this record in particular and coming out of the pandemic and the concept that we were writing about, we felt deserved a home. So we were fortunate enough to work with Totally Real. So Totally Real put out the record with us. And it's less about like financial support and more just about like, it helps us reach a wider audience. It's another advising entity that can let us know, when to release a single or which single. It's someone who's not in the band, not so close to the music, who can give a little bit more insight as to like the proper way to roll out the record, and how a lot of cool ideas came from Brian, who runs the label, as to some of the cool stuff that we have coming up and that we did rolling out the record. That it's just like a different brain that's not in the band that can sort of see us outside of us, but still has like our best interests at heart. So that's really the only way we've been associated with a label, and has like pretty much nothing to do with finances. I don't think we didn't make any money from them, and I don't think they made any money from us. It's really just been success in getting the record and the music out there to more people in a more, interesting way.
How long have you guys been together, and how did you decide like how you were gonna make decisions, how many gigs you're going to play, which gigs you're going to play, what songs you're going to put on the record, what label you're going to go with? I mean, are
Right.
you kind of the leader in making those decisions and they follow your lead, or is it everything democratic? Like, how do you structure that?
It's sort of like, so we've been playing, the three of us have been playing together in this, arrangement for German joined the summer before the pandemic. So he hopped on when our old drummer left and we were finishing the album. And then we played a whole bunch for like 8 months before the pandemic. And then he was with us through the pandemic and since, right? So it's definitely a democracy. So I'm not like in charge of anything. I also, it's one of the things I like about three pieces. It makes it easy. So it's not, you never have two people that you can't run into the scenario where two people against two people are like, well, we're at a standstill. What decision are we going to make? So it always seems like, we definitely have made decisions where someone gets outvoted, and sometimes I might think something's a great idea, and if the other two guys are against it, then too bad. We all play to our strong suits, so I think we're all better and worse at certain things. So like there's just certain areas that I think we all trust each other to be like, I'm the person who's in charge of this, or Alex is the person who's more in charge of this. And then we sort of take that person's lead. So at the end of the day, like if I'm booking shows, right? If the two guys don't want to play a show, they'll say no. And I'll be like, all right, too bad. But I think in general, they sort of defer to me in that realm to be like, okay, Mike thinks this is a good show we should play, or we should tour at this time because of X, Y, and Z. So I think we all just sort of like play to each other's strengths and overlap where those things. So we all have our own role, I guess is what we're saying. It's a democracy as far as decisions making goes, but we all sort of have our own little areas that we are kind of in charge of.
That's cool. And the three of you sort of naturally fell into that, that structure?
I think our personalities are just such that like, I'm the mouthpiece of a lot of stuff because I'm the loudest one. So as far as like all the management stuff and the booking and all of that stuff, I naturally gravitate towards that. Alex, our bass player, is an engineer. So a lot of the particulars and the details, like I'm not a details guy. So when it comes to song writing, I'm more broad strokes and he's more details. When it comes to things like mixing and, audio stuff, that's more his realm. We never sat down and had a conversation where we're like, all right, you're going to do this stuff and you're going to do this stuff. I think we just all sort of over time just sort of all gravitated into different areas and saw like, okay, you seem to be handling this pretty well. So that's going to be like your thing. And that's just kind of the way. And yeah, we've never talked about it. Just sort of happened that way.
Let me ask you to tell people where to find your music, and maybe you can give one tip for bands out there. The number one tip from Mike from NIhiloceros.
Care about what other people are doing as much as you care about what you're doing, and everything else will just sort of fall into place. Just take a second to get outside of your own head and realize sort of like that you're part of a larger community. And I think when you start caring about that, the rest of it just sort of falls into place. So that would be my one tip for anyone looking to be part of any sort of artistic community. And as far as where you can find us, good thing about being named NIhiloceros is that's the only thing that's NIhiloceros on the internet. So as long as you can spell it, which is NIhiloceros.com, at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, even though we don't really have much on there, but basically everything NIhiloceros on the internet, Spotify, Apple Music, Bandcamp, Bandnada, all that stuff.
Beautiful pieces we bring.